Namaste. Welcome everyone across the globe. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Coach Kumar, welcoming you all to the Spiritual Saturday. And today we have a very special guest with me, Miss Divya from Mumbai. She is a psychotherapist, a life coach, and a counselor. Namaste, Divya. Welcome.
Namaste, Anandmai. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so glad that you got the time out for us. And then we have Bill Trezevant from our White House representative. Hello, Bill. Namaste. Welcome.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, thank you. So, Divya, so as you are our guest today, we have a lot of questions and queries and fun chats with you. So, I want to start with that. Where are you located? What do you do? A little bit of your introduction.
Sure. So, my name is Divya Sirvastava. I'm actually a counseling psychologist by profession, and I'm also a life coach. I've done several models of psychotherapy. I specialize in clinical hypnotherapy, EFT or emotional freedom technique, and I'm also an access bars facilitator. I work in Mumbai, and thanks to COVID-19, my work has expanded to include people from different parts of the world. And I'm really grateful for technology for making that possible. And I primarily work with people having anxiety issues, with people who have a history of trauma. And I believe that counseling is something where everyone's life is like a beautiful story, and we all have points in our life where we feel a little stuck. We don't know how to take that story ahead, and I think counseling is something that can help you at that juncture in making you take your own story ahead and rewriting stories, rewriting parts of it that at one point seemed right, but then you felt that things need to go in another direction, maybe. So it's a collaborative process, and I really look forward to meeting people, meeting individuals, and working with them to
Mhm.
take their story forward.
Okay, great. So you spoke about anxiety, and we all know that this pandemic has aggravated the rate of anxiety in people. Even if we are healers or therapists or coaches, even we felt the anxiety at some point in time. So, how would you say that this pandemic has impacted the globe in terms of the mental health?
So, anxiety is something which is actually a very normal response of the body. We have,
Mhm.
unfortunately, belief systems associated with anxiety where we feel anxious and then we get anxious about feeling anxious. But anxiety essentially is like an alarm clock that all of us have. If you
Mhm.
think of any situation in your life where you feel stressed, you will have two options available to you at all times. One is the fight response, one is the flight response. Unfortunately, when things get a little out of hand, when both these responses are not possible, anxiety kicks in. With COVID-19, essentially, at least as far as India is concerned, we went into lockdown without really a preparation. It was announced overnight that, okay, everything's shutting down. And essentially, yes, there is fear about, one's own safety, one's own health, about family members. But essentially, it was like a loss of freedom that happened overnight, something which we could not control, and that led to a whole panic consciousness, fear consciousness, and literally aggravated anxiety. And to top it all, you had issues related to pay cuts that are happening around everywhere, or people are losing their jobs. Some people have been kind of left in the lurch. They got stuck, they couldn't go back to their families, and I was one of them. So I got stuck in Mumbai because of the lockdown, and I've been trying to go back home, but it's been like, a little crazy since then. So I think in general, what the lockdown essentially did, what coronavirus essentially did, is it threw everyone out of their comfort zone. So
Hmm.
you have this whole bubble we all have been living in, which has just been burst. And now we are just floating and trying to, find some space. And unfortunately, everyone is not in their best space right now because everyone is coping. So that availability of a support system, I think
Mhm.
that's what has gone missing, because resilience, which is something we all need to actually be able to overcome and grow from an adverse situation, it has
Hmm.
been severely impacted.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm. Okay. So Divya, as you say that we have lost this thing, the contact with people, the physical presence of someone who can hear you, listen to you. I wanted to know that how can we help ourselves? Like, and is it an individual? We healers know the word self work, but normal people do not know, or maybe a lot of them do not even believe that it cannot work without a help of a professional. But how to initiate it, and how why is that important?
So I feel you can never expect anything to work unless you are working yourself. Even if
Mm-hmm.
you think about, let's keep mental health aside and let's pick something which everyone resonates with, which is physical health. Okay. So even if you decide one day that, okay, I want to really get physically fit, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to pay money. I'm also going to give money to a personal trainer, perhaps, or a fitness trainer to train me. But who is the person who needs to do the exercise? It's you. No matter how much help is available, you also need to be able to help yourself. Unfortunately, when it comes to mental health, people start looking for quick fixes, and they start looking for a magical fix, something that will just, okay, tell me what to do and, solve this issue. But I feel human beings, or, there's more to us than an issue, than a diagnostic label, than a mental health condition. We are not something that needs fixing. Okay. So you can't put yourself in a box and say like anxiety is my issue or this is my issue. There are so many things that you need to do to have a holistic growth. Mental health is one such component, and that's why, yes, you need expert help sometimes, but even in situations when expert help is not required, self work is an ongoing continuous process. Even if you hit the gym, let's go back to that example. You can't just one day stop exercising and stop eating the right food and then expect that your health will maintain itself. So there is no escaping inner work, self work. Even someone who's in the healing space, you can't pour from an empty cup. If your cup is overflowing, there's nothing that can happen. So self work is not something which even I as a mental health professional can, say that, okay, I'm an expert, so I don't need to do this.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it works. So I think self work is completely unavoidable, inescapable. And even if you are new to this field of, healing, and you don't know what's it about, there's it's not a one size fits all. So figure out what is it that works best for you. For example, there are so many people, who are wired differently. There are people, when COVID hit, they decided to keep their sanity intact by entering productivity challenges. We all know the Dalgona coffee challenge went viral with everyone trying to make it and posting pictures. Some people took up fitness challenges. There were some people who took up, painting classes, drawing classes. That was their way of coping with the stress. It's not a right or wrong way, but it was one of the ways. There was another dangerous meme that started doing the rounds that time. I don't know if you all came across it, which said something like, if you come out of this pandemic without having gained new knowledge, without having, become fitter,
Yeah, yeah.
you will actually your excuse was laziness. It was not like you did not have time. So I think that kind of a toxic culture also needs to be avoided, because people cope with things differently. For many people, busying themselves, the art of getting busy, is a distraction tactic, where
Hmm.
if I'm not thinking about this, let me think about this, I'll feel calmer, I'll feel sane. For some people, I want to stay with this anxiety. I want to stay with this sadness. I want to process it fully. So, the judgment needs to fall apart. That, this is the right way, that is the wrong way. And also, we need to start by the step number one, which is awareness. Just
Hmm.
pause and ask yourself, why am I doing what I am doing? Am I really doing it because I want to get fit? Am I really trying to be productive? Who am I if I'm not productive? So it brings you face to face with maybe deeper truths about your own being. And once you have that awareness, then we can work towards, do you want to be this way? Do you not want to be this way? What would you rather be? And that's the growth phase, which, if you can manage on your own with tips and strategies, great. If you can't, there's no harm in going to a mental health professional. asking for tips, techniques, strategies, and becoming the version you are aspiring to be ultimately.
Hmm.
Great. Thank you, Divya. So before we move on to our next question, we have Rakesh Krishnan joining us from Hong Kong. Rakeshji,
Uh,
Namaste.
namaste. He's our in-house scientist. So,
just a human being with the fondness for science.
how are things at Hong Kong? How are you doing?
We're doing pretty well. I'm quite busy getting packing because I have to go to New Zealand by the end of this month. And I think by the 20th, I have to ship a whole set of goods. So, so we'll be packing.
okay.
Crazy
Um,
times.
yeah, it's a crazy time. And I think on Monday, that's
Hmm.
day after tomorrow, I have to get some documentation sorted from the government website. So all milestones on the way, and the trying not to think of the dread of parting from my wife, whom I'm very deeply in love with. So we've been together 7 years, and 7 years here in Hong Kong, and nine years marriage. So yeah, very very. Sort of dreading that, but otherwise, I know that in future, in about a year's time, she will be back with me in New Zealand. So, you know,
Well then, I think Rakesh, you've come to the right place. We have Coach Kumar and we have Divya.
yes.
Right.
But I've been listening to her about her being stuck in Bombay. Have you finally got to Delhi?
My hometown is actually Kolkata, and
Kolkata.
yeah.
Ah, I've been to Calcutta, maybe 2 or 3 times. Yeah, the yellow taxis.
Yes.
So yeah, Bombay we have black and white, black and yellow. So sort of tend to identify them, the cities by taxis. Yeah. Uh, um,
No, go ahead.
I've also been through mental illness at one time, but and for some time I was on medication, but since 2015 I've stopped it,
Hmm, hmm.
and I seem to be pulling along quite fine.
Okay. Well, I did have a question for our featured guest, and that um, is it that it's the initial barrier when somebody tries what that they can't figure out how to reach out for help? Maybe because they're afraid. Maybe because their circle of friends don't necessarily uh, are friendly to it, and maybe they are just so frail and fragile. So I guess that's my question. But Rakesh, for you, my question after she answers would be, how did you do it? When you went through your experience. So, uh, your turn, Doc.
Okay. So I would definitely say that one of the barriers to seeking help for mental health issues is there's a lot of stigma attached. Okay. There are also a lot of people who believe that if I'm going to a someone for a mental health issue, it means that there's something wrong with me or I'm incapable of handling everyday life, everyday stress, and they somewhere feel that it's inferior or it's for the weak. There's also another label that exists in India that you are mad, like you are like psycho or something like that if you're going for something like, and it's like I don't want to fall into that bracket. Like even when people come to me, the first question is, you are not going to put me on meds or put me in a mental asylum, right? And the scary part about that question is they don't mean it as a joke. They actually are actually scared that okay, something is going to go so wrong with me that I'm going to go there. Also, there is a lack of awareness because if you think of psychotherapy or going for counseling, it's a very confidential space. So people, and plus there's stigma attached. So people, if you go to a doctor and he's really good, you're going to tell 20 other people about him and say, okay, this person has this issue, please go here. if you have a mental health label, you're not going to talk about it. Your mental health professional obviously has to value your anonymity, confidentiality. So there's a lot of, like, misinformation that also goes there, because people think what they see on TV, or what they see of, how therapists are like portrayed on TV, like it's going to be exactly like that. So we had, I think, Charlie from anger management, who did this show in between where he did group therapy, and then we had this very popular Indian movie that came out called Dear Zindagi. So I remember it was a very glamorized version of mental health and mental health professionals. And I remember some people saw the movie and they actually asked me questions like, uh, do we have to come to your office for a session? So my first response was, we can do it online. I've been doing consultations online even before the pandemic. So they were like, no, how about we visit Marine Drive or we visit some place? And I was like, that's not what happens. And they're like, Shah Rukh Khan used to go cycling with his clients. And I'm like, it doesn't necessarily happen in a normal setup. And again, explaining to that, okay, where will I get a therapist who does all of that? And I was like, it's unethical, you're not allowed to do it in a movie. You can get away with a lot of things. So there's a lot of misinformation also out there about what therapy is. Some people actually expect that, that traditional couch where you just lie down and speak your mind, and they don't know it's only related to maybe hypnotherapy.
Mm.
Again, with hypnotherapy, will you make me bark like a dog and cluck like a chicken if I come to you? So there's so many belief systems there that even if someone has the, I would say, will or conviction that, okay, I think I need help, there's already a lot of negative self-talk that something is so bad with me that I need to go to somebody. They don't see it as a sign of strength. They really struggle with it. Another issue is, the whole belief system around medication, for example. So essentially with mental health, you don't have one medical or one medicine that's a quick fix, that you take this medicine and your anxiety will disappear or your depression will disappear. Medicines help you manage your symptoms, they don't treat the cause of it. And usually mental illness is a product of, yes, some biological factors but also environmental factors. You can't just take medication and you will get, in fact, no psychiatrist will ever tell you please take medication, you don't need counseling. It's never going to happen. So the fact is, people just find that it's easier to just, pop a pill and go about life because my symptoms are getting managed. What essentially happens after a period of time, you'll need to increase the dosage of the medicines. Or if my symptoms are getting managed, I can sweep the real issue under the carpet. I don't want to go through that. So there's a lot of reluctance and hesitation also when it comes to seeking mental health, again because people are not talking about it. Even if someone's been to a mental health professional, when their friend tells them they are struggling, the first response is, are it's just stress, you can handle it, come, let's go partying, let's go for a drink, tell me what's wrong. So this whole thing around, like, I'm there for you and you can talk to a friend. Yeah, it's, I'm not validating the importance of a support system, but there's a difference between having an effective support system and talking to a professional, and there's a need to acknowledge both those sides.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah, and Divya, I couldn't agree more on this stigma and the belief systems. I got a couple of questions when I got some hypnotherapy clients that, will you take my password away? Or they come to us and they say, do it with the pendulum as they show in the TV, that somebody is doing this pendulum thing over your face, and then suddenly you are saying everything they want to know about. So yeah, I can agree with this thing. And a lot of people also have this what you say, maybe a fear of being judged by their own family. It's the self judgment and the judgment coming from families and friends. If so, they come and say that, I came to you, but my family doesn't know that I'm meeting you, because if they come to know, they will say that I'm mad or I'm crazy and they don't want me to come to you. So all these things, yeah, these all club up and it creates more anxiety and stress for the person already in going through those mental levels. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Ricky.
Yeah. When when I think back on my life with depression, I had depression long before I realized I had it. I discovered it by accident. There was this. I joined. I had depression because after my divorce, depression normally comes, and okay, I'm sort of a bit jumbled up now. Uh, I discovered it only when I went to New Zealand, not in India. And there was this company that I joined which offered this service for anybody. And I didn't even know what that service was. It said you had this sort of, they had some strange name for it. And I said, this is a company perquisite. Let me try it out. So I went for it. And it was the person I met was a clinical psychologist, not a psychiatrist. And she asked me to tell me about myself, and I started talking, and then I was a bit teary because I'm depressed. And then she asked me to fill a form, and then she told me, "You've got a moderate depression. You need to go to your doctor and take some medication." So I went to my doctor, and then I got talking to my doctor, who's a very, very good general practitioner in New Zealand, and she put me on some medication, which made me feel a lot better. And then I realized I had depression, so I went to the library and started reading out about books, about your brain, your mind, and things like that. And then I saw that, so many people, even Winston Churchill, all of them had depression, the common cold of the mind. And I was, I learned to accept it. I tried to shrug off the medicine once, and actually it did quite bad things for me, and it didn't make me sad or anything. It just made me inefficient at my job, slow at deciding, and things like that. So I decided to take a less stressful job, and I had also met a classmate of mine in New Zealand who said, "What would you like to do?" He noticed I was not terribly happy, so he said, "I was working with a bank." He said, "What would make you happy?" I said, "I would like to teach." And he said, "Go buy a whiteboard straight away and put an ad in the local newspaper." And I did that, and I got a bunch of students joining. So I said, I can't manage the bank job as well as this. I take a less high pressure job, and I pursued my dream of teaching. And as I did that, and there's so much of happiness that came out of it, so much of satisfaction, that gradually that was the point at which that was the tipping point at which I started my process of recovery. And then, of course, I met my lovely wife, and things got even better. She's also a very strong person who's also faced mental illness and come out on top of it. So we both walked hand in hand together. And around 2000, I came here in 2013 to Hong Kong. By 2015, I was feeling confident of being able to stop my medication and never look back. Now I'm doing what I like to do, my business and teaching, in online education. I remember my school days where I had an extremely bad teacher at a very crucial point in the pre-university studies, and that, did affect my career. So I said, that mustn't happen to anybody else. So let me go into math and science teaching and provide support at that point, because at pre-university, you don't get the highest teaching talent because their pay scales are lower. So I thought that's the point I need to fill in. And that's what I'm doing with mathplusscience.com. The other thing that I want to mention is that a lot of the stigma is because of what we see about the law, what the law says about mental illness. It talks of corpore sano, sans meno, or there's something like that, sound mind, sound body, the Latin version of it. And so everybody is scared that, I could be locked up or I could be put into an institution if I admit to mental health. But, there are, it's like not every illness is fatal. Not every, physical illness is fatal. But there are various degrees of illness. Similarly, in mental illness, you have various degrees, and
No,
yeah.
okay, well, thank you, Rakesh. I have a question. And it's back to this issue. And Coach, maybe you could address this. Isn't it true that people, rather than turning to professionals or even their friends, turn to other substances like alcohol and drugs to try to do? And isn't that really a sign that they really ought to be going to someone? Coach,
So,
I'm sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
so, okay. I think there are different ways of looking at it. Like we already discussed, that there's so much stigma around mental health. In fact, I remember just a couple of weeks ago, I had this client who reached out to me saying that first question, like Anandmai had said, that please don't tell my family I'm reaching out to you. Only my brother knows I've reached out. I have been suffering with schizophrenia, which is a mental health condition, for the last 10 to 12 years. And my family has tried everything, but nothing is working. So finally, I'm reaching out to a psychologist as a last attempt. So I found that narrative very absurd, because I was like, what do you mean your psychologist is your last attempt? What have you done so far? And she landed into this narrative about going to witch doctors, spiritual healers, and everything possible to overcome that paranoid schizophrenia. And finally, her parents had agreed to be at a stage where medication was allowed. But again, she had to hide it from her husband's family that she was taking medication. So dosages were being skipped, etc. All of those things. So the stigma is very strong. Even if you get help, the fact that you have to take regular medication, you have to do certain things. If you don't have that support system backing you up, it's difficult to actually function in a non-institutionalized setting. Also with the youth, okay, then when you look at smoking and alcohol, some of it also starts because when you get the first taste of freedom, when it's not allowed, you shouldn't smoke, you shouldn't drink. When you're an adult and just because you're of legal age to do it, it first starts off, I want to try it. And the substances are such that they have that addictive, they might have that addictive pattern. So
Mhm.
because of which you just can't like stop taking it. You keep, okay, let me have this, let me have that. And yes, it does make you feel good temporarily. So like you rightly said, it is a sign that yes, I do need to take medication. I mean, I am suffering from anxiety and I'm trying to numb myself out from feeling that panic. So
Mhm.
essentially, it's a colloquial way of saying, what do you do when you're smoking? Essentially, you are deep breathing, inhale and exhale. That's what's happening, and you're getting nicotine in your body. Even when you're drinking, you're just trying to suppress what's there. Even if you're not doing alcohol or drugs, you may have substances like tea and coffee, which are kind of acceptable. Sugar, okay? There are some people who just fall off to sleep every time there is a conflict because I don't want to face it. It's like when I'm sleeping, can't, like, I can't do anything. So, different people have different ways of coping. Alcohol, taking substances is one of them. Oversleeping, overeating, drinking too much coffee, tea, sugar, there are others. So yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree when she says that sleeping is one of the key, like the escape. So for me, yes, I can understand what she's saying because a lot of time when I have a lot of pressure, I switch off everything and just go back with my pillow, and that's my me time. And then when I wake up, I have better things. Like I have a clearer mind to think about things, that how to settle it down,
Mhm.
and what next we should be doing, or that ways. Or sugar. I tend to eat a lot of sugar, maybe when I'm in stress. And then what happens also is, as she's saying, that it's at the starting where we all just have, we just all want to have the taste of it, and
Mhm.
then we get addicted.
Mhm.
So it starts from, I just want to try because my mom said not to.
Mhm.
So from that teen rebellious attitude, it grows to a addiction, I guess.
No, I guess this is would over exercising be also a form of addiction?
Can you
Yes.
repeat yourself?
Is over exercising also a form of addiction, like eating too much sugar or drinking too much alcohol or smoking. Is over exercising one of those indicators? Because people always say that they feel stressed and they go for a run and then they feel better. But then some people are just they make it their world. I don't know. I'm just asking.
So there are different people, like, who cope with stress differently. So there's this model that I often subscribe to, which is called the Enneagram, okay, which
Okay.
kind of groups people into 9 categories, okay. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the categories are like people who fall in something called the mind realm, where where mind is the thing they use the most to function and make sense of their world. So what happens is they are the people who tend to get into running too much, exercising, because that's the only time my thoughts don't confront me, because the moment I'm sitting down, my thoughts are going to,
Mm-hmm.
flood me, and I don't have control. When I'm running, when I'm exercising, I am free from that. So that's one way. Sometimes it could also be something related to, um, I'm over exercising because maybe I have a body image issue as well, where it's like I've lost a lot of weight, and I all my life I was called like really fat, really chubby, and I don't want to go into that state where I feel that way, or I, have to. So there could be a lot of reasons behind why someone behaves the way they do. And again, if they are into fitness, overdoing anything is a sign that there's something wrong.
Mm. Coach.
Yeah, so moving on. So Divya, we are already half time what we have subscribed, but we got the good news that, not the good news actually, but that we have extra time. And the bad news is Dr. Sagu won't be able to join us today. So my next question was more towards the article I read about the thing which you wrote on the Facebook about things what is happening and why people are reacting in a way they shouldn't, like in a very aggravated way. When does a person become inhuman like that? So what happens? Where does it start? So for our viewers, we have there's a very brutal murder and a rape case happened here in India,
Mm-hmm.
and Divya wrote a very beautiful article. You can go to her page. Divya, is it public for everyone?
I think so, and I can make it public.
Okay, so you
I'll
you
do
all
that.
can go and read it there. That how something which we say that it was just a joke. From there, how it becomes to such heinous crimes. So what happens, and especially this has I think increased during the pandemic. If I see it, the number of cases coming up. So can you put like can you tell us more about it?
So, one thing that really troubled me about the whole gang rape that happened, etc., is that there is a lot of politicization that happens, because one thing that has happened essentially is, with the whole advent of technology and everyone having a smartphone, everyone has access to social media, everyone has an opinion, and everyone feels the need to express that opinion. And there is also this whole bubble that only my opinion is the right opinion, and if I get a certain number of likes, retweets, shares, it means that I what I'm speaking is right. So when we spoke about when I was talking about this whole gang rape and this whole brutality that happened, I feel, yes, India has had those kind of episodes even before. We had the whole infamous Nirbhaya case also that had happened, and it happens so often that at some level people also start that, oh, nothing will change with the system, it is meant to be. But when you look at it at a cultural level, or at a very basic level, where is the, on one hand, yes, you are saying that girls are becoming independent, we advocate that, but we are probably not raising sons to be okay with having a world where men and women are equal. When we, even if I talk about my male colleagues or people who are men and who are my friends and relatives, when you start talking when you start any discussion related to the, how women are treated, the first step is you first have to assure that man he is not the person you are talking about. The moment that guard has, that's the first barrier that needs to be crossed, which is insane. Like, even if I talk to anybody, the first thing is, listen, I'm not talking about you, but in general, men are like this. But I said, so I had posted that very fact that you first have to make sure that that person you are speaking to is not a culpable person in this whole scene is itself a sign that something is wrong there. Because from
Mm.
the time when you grow up, and there was this series of experiments also that were done, I think, across many corporates and stuff, that they asked a group of women and men, what are the things, you suppose you work late at office and you have to return home, what are the safety measures you are going to take in place? The men were like nothing, and like they literally could not come up with any response. The women had a whole list in terms of, okay, we need to, we'll give our contact to a friend, or we'll give the cab number to someone, we'll pretend to be on the phone so they know we are constantly being tracked, and all those other things. But men could really, that just shows you how different the world is. And there's a lot of policing that happens. You should not go out after 8 p.m. because the world is not safe. So it's literally like, victim. I would say, like, you're trying to police the victim, not the perpetrator. Why can't you have a law that says, okay, if men are doing this, they should stay at home, let the women go out? It's more like coming from that whole. I mean, what I'm saying is obviously in a very ideal world, but the solution is always not towards fixing the problem. It's more about, okay, this is what it is. Let's let the women only who are at the receiving end take their own measures. And there are many people who actually don't want to hire women, and there's discrimination that happens there, because if we hire a woman, we'll have to take care of her safety. It's an added expense, and it's unfortunate, but corporates do feel that way, that okay, if we hire a woman, we'll have to give her maternity leave. And in India, at least, even in job interviews, people don't think it's out of place to ask someone, when are you planning to get married, or are you planning to have a baby? Because, and I think even uh, Coach Kumar would be able to throw some light on that.
Yeah, these are a couple of questions which we come across that when we are being like when we are being hired in a corporate and stuff like that. But you know, on the other hand, also corporates are doing a lot for women's safety, but I think that's not enough. But what I want you to ask Divya here is that what are the symptoms or signs? Like nobody turns a rapist overnight. How,
Yeah.
as a psychologist, what do you say? What happens with them? I really want to understand that.
So I think there is. Hi, Kimberly.
Yes.
Hello, Kim.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Oh wow, your topic is it's huge. It's the crimes that you speak of. The situation is probably one of the most silent issues of our earth, and least discussed and biggest problem. Right? Um, I was just reading about all of this in the National Geographic this month. Um, about the human trafficking, the rape, the demeaning of all of this. It's a topic bigger than just 1 hour. I'll put it that way, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
And how do we hush the problem? How do we bring integrity back to the humanness of all of this? Because it's just it seems like it's an unsolvable problem. Am I correct?
I would like to stay hopeful and say that it can be solved, but maybe it needs to be addressed at the grassroots level, where the whole policing also that happens with regards to gender norms and gender stereotypes. Think of a situation which is related to high school. Okay, so if a girl is someone, and I'm just going to say it as it is, like if a girl is sleeping around or something like that, she's considered to be the slut, and she's her name is spoiled, and there's humiliation, embarrassment. A guy who is doing the same action, he's the jock, he's celebrated, and oh, he's finally he's literally put in that level, and it's the same act essentially. And also, if you look at it even at a more deeper level, this patriarchy that is there, it's also toxic because honestly, you, me, Kim, we don't have to do anything to become a woman. We are born that way. But to become a man, you have to have this rites of passage where you prove your masculinity, you prove that, and it's very difficult for men also in that way. I mean, it's there are statistics all around that show mental health conditions are higher in women than men. But it's also, I don't believe in that statistic. I think it's easier for women to seek help because they are the weaker sex and it's okay. But if a man is doing that, you have depression. Why are you crying like a girl? Think of it from playground talk like that when they are 4 or 5 years old.
No, you're
This
right.
need to, yeah.
Divya, I have a question, and I think it touches in on some stuff, but I want to kind of re-raise what Coach Kumar said, and that is this. What I hear you saying is that men go through a process where they have to prove their masculinity and manhood, and they have to kind of earn that. Is it in that process, somewhere in there, is that the problem when somebody that Coach Kumar asked, the trigger between them just being just regular people or then turning into rapists? I mean, is it in that? Do you see it's in that? If it's in that process, or is it something else?
Rape also in a lot of essence is actually an establishment of power. It's not necessarily ultimately when you think of it from the perpetrator's mindset, the act that they are getting off on or that they are liking is the fact that someone is so helpless before them, the power they feel over the victim. That's what is the addiction. So imagine someone having to resort to an act as horrifying as that just to feel powerful just for those few seconds, irrespective of the consequences. I think essentially it's a lot about, I mean, if you look at even, organizations all across the world, how many women are in those more powerful leadership roles? The gender is always skewed because, again, power is something associated with masculine energy.
Hmm.
And I want to add something because I've started writing a book on this about 2 years ago, and exactly what you had stated. I shorten it up by saying that women, fame versus shame, right? When men get fame for the same things that women get shamed for. One of the things as growing up, I learned, like you said, the girl could go and fall in love with the boy. She gets pregnant. He gets all this fame, and she gets shamed for being pregnant. She also has to carry that burden where a lot of people go, oh, well, the guy helps. Yeah, sometimes you got to fight to get the guy to help. Sometimes it's not worth having the guy to help. Sometimes the mother ends up taking care of both the baby and the father of the child. So it's not always the best interest of the mother to have that. But in our society, most societies, the way we are taught, our religions, is that this is shameful on the woman. Whereas I think we need to change that education. Okay. I don't think it's shameful at all to become pregnant. I really don't. And some of the most beautiful stories in my lifetime have come from women who became pregnant without being married, and they became extremely successful in life, far more successful than they would have if they'd married that person, and they achieved more. And many of them even said, if I think about this, if I had aborted that child like everyone wanted me to, I would not have had this amazing, beautiful person in my life. So I look at these things because I'm not pro-life and I'm not pro-abortion. I think that that's a personal choice for each human because of the obligation that it comes with carrying a child. I'm for smart, right? Teach our children, okay, if you're going to be promiscuous, if you are going to go out and have sex safely. I think one of you were talking about being safe, right? Being safeties and teaching them the safe way of doing things, teaching them. We still have HIV to be worried about, right? Are we teaching the kids anymore about this? I don't know. But in spirituality, I think empowering the women to become more safer is teaching them how to become more safer, right? Teaching them how to be more of the what I call the A personality, the more powerful alpha personality. And that doesn't mean you push people around. It means that you take control of you, right? I don't know. I could be wrong in your culture. I could be very, very wrong here, but I just feel like as a woman, we were taught these things, but are they really the right things? Can we teach our daughters, our girls better? Is what I'm asking.
Well,
I think, so I definitely believe that yes, we need to raise women who are strong, who are independent, who are aware that every choice they make, even whether you're a man or a woman, every choice has certain consequences. But we have to stop judging ourselves for the choices that are being made, because there's also a whole filter of society that is kept there. Like even in a boardroom, if and this is something which I have also noticed in a lot of meetings when I go, if a woman is talking, everyone is suddenly fiddling with their phones, not really paying attention. And if she's still trying to assert herself, she's bossy. A man does the same thing, he gets branded as being assertive. And you know, there are these gender inequalities that exist. Even when we are growing up, you are taught, you have to walk like a girl, you have to learn how to do, at least in India, the culture where I am in, it's okay if the boy or the man does not know how to wash dishes, cook meals, wash his own this thing. In fact, but as a woman, that is something you need to learn. During the pandemic, there was this research study actually that was conducted about how women who are living with men end up doing more household chores than they would had they even been living alone. And they also did a whole research where men believe they contribute more to the house versus the actual as they contribute. There are exceptions there, I think, in the coming generations and in some. But if you go to more traditional households, I have seen that the expectation is from the daughter-in-law to help in the kitchen, but the moment my son enters to put his plate, oh no, not at all. Please don't. Like I'll do it. So there's a difference between a daughter and a daughter-in-law, a son and a daughter-in-law. So the same mother who would have a daughter and treat her like a princess may not be able to do that when it's someone else's daughter who's living in that house. So the othering starts from there. They have been discriminated against when they came to the house. Now it's also a power struggle there, that I need to have my time now.
Wow. I would have never thought of that, but you're right. Coach Kumar, what are your thoughts on that? That's pretty impressive empowerment.
Before I say anything, I think Rakesh, she has something to add or
Oh,
ask.
Very quick point. Do look at a book written by one of my classmates called Deepika Rai, called Someone Else's Garden. It's exactly about that story. And then, since there are three women on the show, I'd like you to draw your attention to how much of this patriarchy comes from religion and culture. That's all I've got to say. Thank you. Bye-bye.
oh, wow. No,
That's all I've got to say. It comes straight from religion and patriarchy, and which is why I'm an atheist today, because I only believe in logic. I don't believe in any of this ridiculous baggage called religion. So that's where the root is. Religion originates out of conmen, and these conmen prey on insecurities of either gender, both men's gender. Like if you are too liberal, your women will go be unfaithful. There will be a lot of infidelity. So they prey on the man's fear. They prey on the women's fear that if you're all alone in this world of men, you will be suppressed, oppressed. You will be forced to walk the streets. It's like we haven't evolved from the jungle. So
well, I agree with you. I agree with you because I left my religion, faith, because of that. Because I looked at the Bible one day and I said, it's been translated 100 different times. And each translation, appeared to prey upon the weak and the women and dictating us how man wanted us to behave, not how God wanted. God gave us 10 commandments. If you believe in God, right? If you believe in a superior being, he gave us 10 rules to live by. If you believe in that, they're really good rules. They're rules of a garden. basically, right? They're the healthy mindsets of respecting each other and abiding by each other. There's a few in there that I think have been rewritten that are stupid, like, sorry, God. But like, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Okay, so I can covet my neighbor's husband? Did God really say that? Oh, right, let's go, women! Woo! You know, who wrote that one? Because certainly God was not that ignorant. So I got to ask myself, because my mother-in-law, who was extremely religious, a Bible school teacher, when they decided to allow women to do this, they didn't like her because she compared science to religion a lot. And she came out one time and said that the King James Version was written specifically to keep the military intact, right? Everything was written to keep the men intact a certain way that the king wanted them to behave. It really wasn't written the way probably God wanted men to behave, but it was the way the king wanted them to behave. So if you look at over time, how many times the Bible has, I would love to translate the original Bible. I think, you know, how people always ask you, if you could go meet God, what would be your question? Because I like to read so much, I would ask God for his original copy that I could read. I have said this to myself 100 times. Can I have the original copy and the mind to translate and read it? Because I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read your book. That is what my, if you know, but I had to give up my religious faith belief because it contradicted to me everything in humanity. And majority of our wars were based on religion wars. I mean, you know, I'm going to kill you in the name of God. Excuse me. That's, you know, one of those top line items there that God said don't do.
Yeah, right. That's not that kill.
Fairy in the sky. God is the fairy in the sky. Just
Right. I mean, you have to ask yourself, you know, like you said, people wrote these things to kind of control people. Right. It was all mind control. Why is it women are degraded so much in these stories? And I haven't read every religious version. My uncle, that's one thing he told me to do one time. He said, sit down and read every religious book.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, if I do that, that's all I'm ever going to read in my lifetime, probably.
No, actually,
no. It's easier than you think. I've read all the three, you know, all the three major religions.
Rakesh,
and they're all the same rubbish.
No, Rakesh.
That's what I figured.
There are 5, and I've read all 5. So Kim, it's not as difficult as you think. And Rakesh, you listen to.
Well, I did read.
I read some more. The ones I've read the other ones, but that's not the point. The point is, it's all about mind control. If you're interested in God, you've got to have that direct interest and have that experience with God. If you're too lazy to do that, forget about it. Don't try to get somebody else's model and shove it onto another person's head. That's my opinion.
I think finding the common core values of human and common core values of nature, those are the things that we have to combine. And all of that is more, I hate saying it, but you are so, I mean, it's not that I hate saying you're right, but a lot of people hate me for saying this, but I believe it comes down to more about science, about who we are. And then there comes faith and hope. And everyone knows I have a hard time saying hope. And that's because that's not a tactic for me. If you're planned and prepared, you don't need hope except for the final Hail Mary. And, you know, to me, you have to be planned and prepared. Faith is different than hope. A lot of people confuse the two, right? We preach faith and hope. But this, again, is not my story. What I'd like to do, though, is learn more about how we protect the women and children. Especially, okay, so I know this problem exists. I sit on several committees. I have an invention to help prevent a lot of these crimes against women that you hear. I hope to get that launched in the near future. But how can we start educating the girls to not believe the guy to say, oh, come run away with me, I'm going to marry you. And then he ends up taking her across the border to a brothel and sells her, like the stories I read this morning when I woke up. Because this happens every day. We know this. Like you said, let's get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is educating the girls not to go doki doki, as the Japanese would say, doki doki with your heart, think with your mind, but that's hard to do, right? Hormones raging. Cute guy comes up and starts talking to you, and your parents go, "Leave that boy alone. He's bad news." "Oh, mom, you don't know what you're talking about." you know, can we, and we don't want to microchip our children so that we can track them, but the last resort is that the way I can save my little girl, because I read 4,600 what they can record. 4,600 girls a year are kidnapped out of India for sex trade. That's only what they can record. And I know in America that they failed to record majority of those kind of statistics because they don't have to. Okay, the police department, their thing is if the threshold isn't higher than 1%, you don't have to report it. I'm making up that number a little bit. But like with domestic violence, if they did not have a lot of domestic violence, if they only had 1 or 2 in their county, they didn't have to really report it on the National Register. That's a lot if you add up all the counties we have, okay? So when you look at 4,600 little girls, I'm angry. I'm angry because somewhere our police are not doing their job. Okay, somewhere our teachers are not doing their job.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say somewhere mom and daddy aren't doing their job, but maybe we need to teach our girls, stuff that they taught in the medieval days, like a chastity belt. And I'm just making things up here.
Mm-hmm.
But I got angry this morning. I almost started crying, but then the tears stopped because I'm like, I've been basically reading this since I was born. Think about it.
So then how do we begin to change? And I guess it's both the attitude of young of children, both boys and girls. Girls to be more independent and boys to be, understanding that process of becoming a man doesn't mean that, you are in charge of everything. Rather means more of a partnership, and such that each person is a person first, then they form a partnership as they move forward. How do we go about doing that? Divya and Coach Kumar?
Yeah, that's a good idea. And in your culture, what would you change in your culture rules to change that?
So I think parenting and the way parents treat sons and daughters differently, that needs to change. I think I'm very privileged that I've grown up with parents who've given me as much freedom as I could ask for. They have never discriminated between me and my brother. But I've also seen relatives actually having issues with that. They actually tell my father and my mother sometimes things like, "You're giving your daughter so much freedom, no wonder she won't want to get married." There is also this whole question where they say that, you know keep your daughter caged, don't give her so much freedom, because that will motivate her to marry, and then she can have all the freedom that she wants. So as a girl, born in an Indian household, you are also told from that thing that your whole job is for us to take care of you, and then you get married, and you can work if your husband allows you to work. You can do all these things you want to do if that's allowed in the house you get married in. Your son doesn't have all those restrictions. And I've noticed this, it's okay for, I have not faced it, but I also know so many people in my friend circle where their friends, their brothers have got, their deadlines are different, even if they're the younger ones. So I think parenting also needs to change. Instead of teaching your daughter, I think, how to make rotis or something like that, maybe start by, teaching her martial arts, so that she knows how to protect herself. She doesn't need a man to protect her. So I think, you have to start with something as basic as that. And yeah, I think that's something where it has to start from, parents.
Oh,
Yeah, and yes, I agree here because we talk a lot about gender inclusion and equality, and they teach to us that in our corporate or when we are in moreover in college or in any corporate office. But then we forget that at when we were kids and we used to trouble our mother. So she will say, go play with your doll. And for the boys, go play with your ball bat or whatever it is. So since starting, pink is for girls, blue is for boys. So we start that at our home. And as Divya says that we have the privilege in the society, we had that privilege to be what we wanted to be. But then there are girls who are getting married at the age of 17, 16, or even less, just because you go to your in-laws house, your husband's house, and do whatever you want to do, wear whatever you want to wear. They're not allowed to wear even the dresses they like at their parents' house, because that will attract someone who will harm you. So this is the mindset, this is the entire mindset which we have discussed a lot of times on IBM TV, that these changes needs to start from scratch. Not it cannot be fed into your system, or maybe your software cannot get upgraded in a day or two. That okay, today you are a different Coach Kumar or Kim, and tomorrow I install a different software in you and you change. So somebody who has
Talk
seen
about this uploading.
yes,
Yeah. I would actually like to add to that just one question. Even the way rape victims are interrogated in India, the first question is, what were you wearing? What were you doing there? It's as if, just because I wore a certain dress, it kind of takes the blame away that, okay, because I was wearing this, it's natural for men to get attracted. So you should cover yourself. And so even in the interrogation process that comes up, even asking them, okay, what were you wearing? Why were you out? Were you drinking? So it's more about what did you do to invite that to yourself, instead of no matter what I did not, the whole concept of consent. Okay, it's very difficult to take it, like everyone talks about it, it's suddenly the woke word and people know about it. But when it comes to, or even the fact that consent changes from moment to moment, like maybe the first time I met you and you offered me tea, I drank it. Next time I have still got the right to say no, and I don't want it today, or I don't want it right now. That is like, no, then there's something wrong with you. You attracted it on your you invited it to yourself. There's so much of those stories going on. So there has to be change that happens even at a at the law and order enforcement level. When it comes to the way you even handle these cases, the sensitization needs to happen. Even parenting needs to completely change.
And I'm going to add to this because I work in the domestic violence group. Okay, that's how I got started in all of this, is to help prevent domestic violence. And a lot of times we would go to the police and they go, "Oh, why bother enforcing the order? Because they're going to get back with him anyway." Nobody ever sat down to research why so many women got back with the offender. And a lot of times the reason was that they were married, they had no other means of income. And third, it was better to face the beating than to look over your shoulder worried about whether he was going to kill you. And so and then nobody ever looked at the psychic. I mean, because I had to ask my friends or family member who was a victim of domestic violence, why do you keep going back? How many times have we issued an order? And the end game was, I can't stand on my own 2 feet right now. I have babies to take care of. And it's easier to face the black eye, get the black eye and get the broken rib and a broken arm than it is to go, oh God, when's he going to kill me? Because as soon as they had the protective order, it was like throwing gas on that fire, right? And like you said, this is more about dominant power than it is about anything else. It has nothing to do about whether they love the person. And all too often, the neighbors, your friends, they're not going to believe you. They're going to ask, what did you do to bring it on yourself? I watched a preacher do this to a woman I knew and respected for years. Mm-hmm. And this is what he said. What are you doing to bring the beatings on yourself? Why aren't you treating your husband better? Why aren't you giving him more things and less reasons to beat you? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she's sitting there thinking her preacher's telling her this. So it's religion. Definitely she's wrong because she brought this, and like she burned the chicken when she was cooking it or something, right? And I'm like, so it took a lot of mindset changing to get her out of that. Okay. And then it took almost dying to say, I can't. live here. But a preacher telling her that, not to him going, you need to stop beating her. You need to stop doing drinking. You need, no, it was the woman's fault. So again, you're right, where we, at the root of the problem, we teach wrong. But why not commit to doing a different, I'm not saying a different kind of religion, but people need religion, unfortunately, right? I hate saying it that way, but people need religion. They need something to grasp to, for faith, for rules, for organized life. Because I realized this the other day when I was reading some comments, and somebody said something. I said, well, that's given you a consistent life, right? Which gives you comfort. And religion does that for us, right? It gives us a baseline of rules for comfort. But I think what we need to do is rewrite the book, see how they've been written so many times. And this time let the women write it, not the men. Sorry,
No, I'm perfectly comfortable, just so that everybody knows. My mother suffered from domestic violence, and she ultimately left my father. So I'm one of those men that I was raised by a very strong woman, and I have a very different view about these issues. So I am thoroughly engaged in this. So Kim, no apologies from my side. I'm cool.
Okay, so I'm glad, and that's good to know that people understand.
Yeah.
But it takes and I hate saying this too, it takes a very strong woman to leave a relationship like that, because you're leaving love. And get me, I know all of those guys, the offenders' tricks, and it's not always men against women, right? But it's always sending flowers. I'm sorry, I'll never do that again. Nice big new jewelry. I've seen it all. And what that does is your friends see that and go, oh, what a nice person.
Yeah.
Oh, how could you ever leave them? And they don't ever believe you when you tell them that you're getting the crap beat out of you every night. So changing the laws, right? But let us change these laws. Let us write the policies, because honestly, I believe that majority of our religious books, which I'm going to go now read the other ones, seeing how Bill told me they're not that bad to read. And I'm gonna break down, because I'm going to tell you, I read the Obama bill, which was probably one of the biggest boring things to read in my lifetime. But I read the whole freaking word for word, so I can read every religion's book. So, but let's sit down and take a look at that and go, what would you change to empower victims in general, right? Not just women, but empower humanity. As a woman, what would you change in your Bible or your book to empower humanity? And that, I think, is the way I would approach this, and teaching the grassroots to my daughters, which we're going to have a huge uprising, right? We're going to have, like we had those women who were kidnapped out of the schools years ago.
I guess, Divya, Coach Kumar, what are some of the solutions that our viewers can actually start right now in terms of dealing with it?
Very good question. Yeah, what could we start with, just simply, not breaking rules? Simply.
Yeah.
I have a very different belief system about all of this also, where I feel, the problems seem larger than life and it seems unsolvable. And while it's the most cliche thing to say, I really believe that love is the answer, because at some level, you cannot give what you haven't received. And it starts with self-love. If you love yourself to that extent where you accept yourself, you would never want to be anything else to another person. Where it's like, I love myself so much. This is what I love. I am not perfect. I have flaws. Everything about me is not completely right, but I can accept it. I don't need to have that kind of, I would say, I don't need to take that kind of validation from somebody else. At the end of the day, again, like we go to locker room talk, etc. You're talking and you're bragging with your friends. Oh, I made out with her. She was really hot. All those things. What are you trying to do? You're trying to be accepted. You're trying to be loved. You're trying to just elevate your stand. But if you feel that way about yourself, okay, already, that I don't need this validation from outside. I don't need to make another person feel helpless. I don't need to rescue somebody to feel that I am valuable. Okay. What if you are able to do that? That itself would definitely, like, I think, open up a whole new chapter in the way everyone feels. The detachment starts right from the time, maybe for some of us, we are born, where, okay, oh, it's a girl. In India, that's not the most auspicious news you will hear, because there is a preference for a male child. And as you're growing up, yes, there's pressure even on men to be men. I mean, again, when we look at, issues related to gender issues, sexuality issues, all of those things, where we still are privileged. I still am privileged because I'm cisgender. I'm in the heteronormative culture and all of those things. But there are so many other aspects that come into place when it just comes to being accepted and being loved. And I think what we essentially started with, the whole self work and the inner work part, which is,
Yeah.
even my anxiety can be lovable. Even my anger, I am allowed to be angry. Just because I express my anger doesn't make me a bad person. The world will come to an end when I'm angry. If I start showing my anxiety, I'll be called insane. If I show my love and how I express love to people, it means I'm needy. What if we got rid of those labels and let people express themselves in the version they feel healthy? So, you won't need to even have that law in place, because when you are happy, when you are, let's just think about it. If you wake up in the morning, you had a really good night's sleep, you're smiling, what are you going to do when you meet somebody else? You're going to smile at them. You're not going to just suddenly make a frown. You have those beautiful days, everything is right, and when you smile at someone, they are 90% of the times going to smile back. Even if they've had a bad day, they'll just look at you, and it's a very small thing, but I think that's where the whole concept of self work, inner work actually starts, where just start that journey towards loving yourself a little more. Where if I value myself enough, no matter how expensive the diamond ring is that I'm getting because I got beaten, it's not acceptable. I don't think I'm worth, a diamond ring is worth more than my safety, or than who I am. So I think it's a very cliche thing to say, but I think self love is the answer, and do what you need to do to feel that love for yourself.
Mm.
There you go. Self-love, learning to love yourself. I couldn't agree more. I mean, when I found the best balance in my life is when I started practicing what I always preach to my children. I always taught my children, love yourself first, because others can't love you until you love yourself. And I think you're right, because I think we're less apt to hurt other people if we look inside ourselves and find out,
Right.
this is why
Right.
Kumar, what do you think, Coach Kumar?
I agree with what Divya is saying, and we have discussed this a lot of time, that we behave in certain way just to get accepted or just to avoid a fear. So when we love ourselves unconditionally, or little more than our spouses or our boyfriends or girlfriends, so we are giving that opportunity to that person who is going to stay with us for the rest of our life, uh, the uh, the opportunity to express, be free, and be them.
Wow, I like
So
that. Can you say that again?
I don't know what I said. It just comes right. We can have the replay.
Yeah,
It's
we'll
not
have to
made up, so it comes from inside, that we can just give the opportunity to be whatever we want to be. um, as Divya was saying, that we are conditioned in a way, and especially the girl child in India or in any other culture also. Uh, you have to adjust with your husband. Marriages are not meant to be broken. It's a sin in God's eye. I don't know, even God, like, everything is okay for God. He decided that a man or a woman will stay together or not. If you believe, he is the one who is the director. We are just playing our parts and acting in a way. So these are the conditioning which are put in our heads. So that's what happens, that a lot of conditioning, and with all these things which are said to us since we are child, becomes our belief system. And then even if we are beaten up, we'll think, oh no, he's just my husband, I must have done something wrong. So that's why I'm attracting all these beating up on me, or maybe I have attracted. And this is how we have been treated. Even if we are victim of something, the finger is pointed towards the girl. Like in 98% of cases, I would just say 2%, because now, and all these stereotype definitions, either a girl is someone who is suffering or she's a feminist. So for them, being feminist is just hating men. It's not that. Standing for your own rights is what feminism is. What I believe, it's like again, loving yourself, standing for your own rights. It's not that you have to fight for it every time. You can just put your views in a way that the other person can understand. And if they're not understanding it in one go, try it in different way. So um, again, it all just narrowed down to one thing, which is the self work and self love, and just having the me time, together time with ourselves, and dealing with what we are going through.
And that's a good foundation to establish. And we can begin there. But then we have so many situations where people are, like we said, stuck in a situation where they can't. It is so bad that they can't even begin to love themselves. I've seen this, time and time again, that you lose that ability to grab that foundation. And so what we need to do, I guess, is begin small, like anything, right? And let it spread, right? Plant that seed as much as we can, not just in our children, but in ourselves, right? Because we have to be able to love ourselves in order to set that example. Yes, Ankit.
So we had, listened to the amazing conversation by Divya, by Coach Kumar, and also by Bill and Kim and Rakesh. You also mentioned amazing points. But overall, I just wanted to understand that we are talking about society which is not ready to change, and they're not ready to accept. And someone are pointing finger, and someone is accepting, and someone is putting allegations and stuff like that. I just wanted to understand from Divya, especially, that what is the role of social media in that? Because whenever we do something, everything happens on social media now. And when we talk about any incident happen in India, I mean, it's all over there on the media and social media. So how that impact a natural person or a general person, and how they can change the perception and how we can work in that. Because I think if we are able to control social media, and if we are able to control the fake sentiments, or the way they are portraying the certain issue, I think we can at least win a half-hearted war, and then we can if we can start adding something to education, and also upbringing our children from the small ages of life. I think they will also learn what needs to be done, what the ethical means. Because for me, man, as you rightly said, that man means who is gentle, he's a man. That's what we call gentleman. And now I think that there are very few gentlemen as compared to what we have a lot of men in the society. So just wanted to frame that word one more time. But what do you think about social media, and how we can cater to that solution?
So social media has led us to, portraying life in the perfect version that is possible. We all have filters. Every time, you meet people now. I mean, before the pandemic, I'm talking about. They are meeting together. They are at the dinner table and they are busy taking pictures of the food, clicking pictures with each other. The focus has shifted completely to capturing moments versus making moments. Like, I think when I was growing up, we had this whole world of this reel camera where I think after 52 or something, you would watch the reel and you would get pictures of some birthday party, some trip, like 2-3 years documented in those, snapshots. Today, you go to one event, there are over 200 photos of just a dinner. Okay. And when you're putting it out there, okay, you're going to always have that picture of, oh, this is how happening my life is. This is how amazing my life is. So when you scroll through the feed, you're going to be like, constantly comparing that, oh, this is how it is, and oh, my life is not so happening. And like, if I, like, how they say, let's start with self introspection. So before the pandemic, if I looked at my own posts, okay, I love traveling. That's my way of de-stressing. So every few, like, people used to think that, do you even work? Because sometimes we see you are in Bali, then you've gone to Doha, and you're in like Thailand. What are you up to? And honestly, since the pandemic, I think other than 3 posts or 4 posts on Instagram, I have uploaded nothing, because in my head I'm like, what do I take a picture of this rice and dal that I'm cooking at home, of this thing, because this is not what I want my life to be, or this is where it comes from, that what do I tell people about my life right now? This is what I'm doing, so I'm not posting anything. And when my life gets happening again or something, I know I'm going to go back on that role. So not believing that seeing is not always believing, and what you're actually going to look at is a more exaggerated version of reality than it actually is. And different social media handles have different functions. Like, everyone is angry
Yeah.
on Twitter. Like, you have to complain about customer service and I'm going to destroy your brand and all those things. You go on Twitter, it's just
Very brutal.
anger, 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 anger. You go on Instagram and suddenly you see exotic location, food recipes, dance videos. Facebook, I am not using it that much. It's just, I think there's too much family out there. But LinkedIn is okay, I think,
Yeah.
for professional networks also. But as it's gaining in popularity, again, it's becoming Facebook. I personally feel that way, where there's a lot of irrelevant conversation, and the whole focus is on what can I portray my life to be. We've moved into this zone where the image of who we are is more important than who we actually are.
Hmm.
So that's something that's definitely happening a lot because of social media. And yes, I feel, for as far as maintaining your whole mental health is concerned, um, follow accounts that make you feel good about yourself. You do not need to follow every person you know just because you know them in real life. And unfriending someone on social media or unfollowing them does not mean your relationship ends in the real world. So have that distinction also. And again, like, with, I've seen so many people, they post a picture, that picture only got 2 3 likes, I'm going to delete it, it's not good. But when you click that picture and you posted it, what was your mindset? You posted it because you really thought you look good. So the validation is coming from external sources. And the whole, like, the whole concept of self love, again, it gets lost in that mess, because everything is, what are others thinking of me? Like, everything I post, there's going to be a comment, there's going to be a retaliation, or people will see what I'm reading, I'm putting my views out there. Okay. And there will be people who don't have a view that matches yours. It's so easy to unfollow people and unfriend people. So it also lets you create that bubble where only people who believe in these things can exist on my friend circle. It goes into that other extreme also, which is again not healthy, because you live in a world where diversity has to be accepted, it has to be inclusive. And you need to have that patience to have a intellectual stable argument or debate also with someone, rather than just trying to catch on them. And on social media, I remember I post something, and if it's controversial, again, with women, the trolls are like, oh, you're such a slut, what do you think of yourself? With men, it's like, what do you know? And the whole gender slurs around this literally getting personal, it's very vicious, it's not good. I mean, if you're, especially again, if you're going through a difficult time, social media is not a happy place to be, no matter how much, because you keep thinking someone else's life is better than mine, and it may not be so.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
No, I think very rightly said.
Ankit,
But Divya, yes, Anandmai. Yes, Coach Kumar.
yeah, so I read an article about it, and it says, and it's a research actually, which says that if you wake up in the morning, what is the first thing you do? And if you check your social media, it means that you are seeking the validation
Oh.
and significance from others.
Okay.
So if you have posted anything at night and you are waking up in night and just checking how many people have liked it or followed it or shared it, or first thing in the morning, if you're picking up your phone, then it means that you are seeking the validation from outside world, and there you're lacking the self love, and you need to generate it, because morning time is should be a time when you wake up, maybe at 10 o'clock in the morning, doesn't matter what time are you waking up, but that time should be your time, like with a cup of coffee or tea, or just sitting outside in the sun with the fresh air, or whatever you like to do. It's not only because I like tea, I can sit with my tea, but somebody who doesn't like, they just want to sit with their books, they can do that. And this is something which I now relate to my maternal granddad. And we were discussing it today also, me, my mother, and my sister-in-law. My mom was telling my sister-in-law how my granddad was. So she was telling that in the morning, my granddad used to wake up and he used to pick up spiritual book. And by spiritual book, I mean any of any culture. He would pick up a book which is written either in English or Hindi, and he will read it in the morning time. Afternoon time, afternoon reading was his law book reading time, and at night he would read anything which is related to science. So reading is what made him uh, uh, was his me time. So he divided it into three times, like morning, spiritual time, afternoon is the law book, which was his profession, and then in the evening he used to read science magazines like Science Today or any other science, and he used to discuss that with us, like all the kids at home. He would call us and ask us questions about it. That um, oh, what do you think about it? And even when we were not knowing that there was no internet, no cable channels where we can see Net Geo, and then we could get educated, then he will explain everything to us. So again, like drilling down to back to the topic, it's that when you pick up your phone and when you see and go to the social media, you're seeking a validation from outside, and then you are creating a fairy world and then you want to live it. So if I see Ankit going on a vacation and I'm stuck at home in this corona time, oh God, I'm depressed. How can he go out and why my life is stuck at my home? So all these things, as and I read it somewhere on a very wise man's status. Social media is not so social.
Yeah.
That's Ankit, yeah.
Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg would disagree with you. Mark would disagree with you big time, and this is how he makes his money. But
Yeah, so with Trump, right? Yeah.
But I think on that note, I think we need one more social media platform which could be a spiritual book, and where only people who understand the spirituality, they will join the media. Other people who are not understanding it, they are not allowed to join it, and then we can have spiritual points and stuff like that. And also, we won't accept any crap and anything like that, because on social media people can write anything. There is no filter. They can write anything. They can say anything, and I think that's also the cause of concern, because when there's no filter, you have the right to do anything, and that's what they call right to speech or right to express or stuff like that. But you need to understand that there are also other people on social media. In fact, a lot of our, teens and also kids, they are also on social media with the fake IDs. Everyone knows about it. And then when you put anything on social media, it's for the public and everyone's available. But I wanted to understand a personal, thing in what's going on in the India right now. That whenever something happened, an incident happened with a woman, everyone wants to jump off, and there are two sides of the coin. Why? How? I mean, I don't know what happened in US, but suddenly there are two sides. One said, okay, we have to, make sure that the victim will get justice. The other said, okay, we'll just move on, things like that. So, why people opted for? Why they have two sides of the coin? Why they have two parties? Why can't we have one party or we have several parties? And everyone was keen that, okay, I have to post it because it's in the trend. And after a couple of days, because they just wanted to be the part of that social media trend.
it's the same way in the United States.
Yes,
It's
Coach.
her fault. You know, she shouldn't have dressed that way. We talked about her earlier. She shouldn't have dressed that way. She shouldn't have acted that way. I had someone one time when we were doing a case. You shouldn't have smiled at him like that. He said because you smiled at him that you wanted him, and in business you can't smile at anyone. This was a human resource situation. So so again, eventually you become crabby, right? Okay, I can't even smile at people at work, because if I do and it's misinterpreted, then something happens to you. Something happened to you, and it's your fault. It's not the guy's fault. So it's the way we've been conditioned, and but also I don't know about your laws, but in our laws, the government makes a lot, or they make a lot of money on cases like this, right? We've had tremendous cases. I will tell you this. I know for a fact the DAs, it's very rare for them to take a rape case. It's because it's too hard to prove. So when I see a DA suck it up and go, I'm going to take this case to trial, because there are a lot of rapes compared to how many trials actually go on. when I see that happen, I go, wow, he must have really collected a lot of evidence.
Mhm.
Because the only time that generally you're going to see a rape case go to trial is if there was a death.
Mhm.
Am I right, Bill? I
Yeah.
mean,
No, you are, because most of the time there's enough uh, wrongdoing that the defendant, presumed innocent, enters into a plea deal. In fact, 90% of the cases plea out before they go to trial, and the big ones, because at that point the individuals are looking at the difference between 30 years in jail or life or things of that nature. So they go for a shot. I guess I've been just to pivot for a second. Because I was trying to think back to how my mother raised me, and um, I can tell you that at least for me, it did make awkward moments because Divya, I didn't go through that whole masculinity training kind of process, and I went to all boys schools and grammar school up through high school, and whenever that stuff came up, yes, there were the jocks and the nerds, and I was always taught, Bill, everybody's equal, and so for me it was really awkward to kind of get through that. And then the other thing is that she always emphasized surrounding yourself with smart women and making sure that that you uplift them, because they inevitably will assist you. So I was always surrounded by strong, independent, some would say argumentative. I found them funny. you know, uh, they are what they are, and so um, I don't know how much that can impact. And I guess so. That having been said, I guess my larger concern with India is that, and it's a take on what Anchor said. It seems, at least here in the United States, we see these cases because it was the last. There have been a number of cases. The other one was the medical student, the woman who was on the bus, and everybody else, saw what was going on, and that ended up in her death. And I think that one went to trial, and they actually found some people guilty. But it seems to me that these cases happen all the time, and I think it was something that Rakesh had mentioned. He said that this is part of the fight with the overall caste system in India, and that maybe that has overtures because if they're from, that's supposed to be abolished. And so I can tell you, at least in my view, I mean, I'm outraged and horrified every single time I hear one of these things. And then I think, why can't, because the outrage comes, and then for some reason it subsides, and then another dramatic case, and then you have these same issues. The police aren't following the suspects. The villages are involved. The woman's reputation is trashed. The family fights back. And in this case, her body wasn't even given back to her family. In fact, the police took it. They didn't do an investigation, and then they cremated her before they could collect any evidence. Now, that to me is astounding, and I just don't know. There's an outroar, but I don't. I'm sorry. I'll stop there. But I hope you get my gist, because I just can't wrap my head around it. Why more is not being done, because we see it every single time. Sorry.
I know.
There is an issue at the systemic level. Yeah, there is an issue at the systemic level, definitely. And again, you have the caste system in India. You also have a lot of racism in other countries where, let's go to, the school shootings that happen in the USA that we read about. And again, you look at the reportings, a shooter or some, but the moment it's a different community, terrorist. Okay, so even the way you report a crime like that, it's the same crime. When it happened in Peshawar, the school attacks, they were all branded terrorists. But when it's again, a white man, and I'm just saying that they never get branded as terrorists. They never do. So
no, you're right
again. Yeah, so it's again, when you have privilege and when you do get away with a lot of things. In India, we don't have racism. We have the caste system in place that where the upper caste gets away with a lot of crimes. Even with, again, USA, what we hear over here is about with the whole, the gun laws and everything that's there, and being African American versus being white. There is a difference in treatment and so many things we hear about here. So I would definitely say there is an issue at the systemic level, and it's not something you can just fight and say it's specific to India or specific to US. I think every country has those kind of power, like those power games in play.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And at the end of the day, what you spoke about also, where the victim shaming that happens. I mean, a rape victim in India, you're damaged goods. You're not a virgin, and therefore now who's going to marry you? There are all these kind of shame and other things attached. So even when it comes to reporting a case, you were went through something that was so horrifying. Reporting it is mean, like I have to relive that whole episode,
You
even
victimize
if
men.
justice is coming in the sense that okay, the perpetrator is punished, but boys will be boys. He'll get out, and he did it once. He has a good track record. Why do you have to make a big deal? Your reputation, and in fact, that is actually the painful negotiation that happens between. Why do you want to ruin your girl's reputation? Like good girls or good families do not fight these crimes in a courtroom. And who's going to marry your daughter if this is what happened to her? And so I
I hate
mean, you have things like like the hymen reassignment surgeries and all of those coming in. Why? Because no, if you're not a virgin, oh my god, you can't exist. So this is actually the reality which exists. And even more than okay, going through the whole crime and that it happened and it was so horrible that it happened, even getting justice doesn't help me. There are villages where they make you marry the perpetrator because that's their way of justice, that okay, you defiled her, now you marry her. The consent again of the girl, does she even want to marry him? Not,
Yeah.
does not take place. And you have movies, at least in India, where if you're a stalker and it's true love, and in like they literally glorify that image. So when you look at actors as being role models, okay, you see this guy who's stalking a girl, whistling at her, she's saying no, and it still means yes, and you, if you keep persuading her,
Hmm.
it means she's going to fall in love with you. And that is the narrative that boys are watching from the time they are in school, in villages, everywhere. So of course, there's, you can't censor everything, it takes away creative freedom. But then I'm asking deeper questions, that is there no rights and responsibilities that you have as a creative person? Like what kind of, like, yes, it's a depiction of society, but as an actor you also enjoy certain responsibilities, that people look up to you, people literally behave the way you do. And you know you have to also decide what kind of roles are you trying to portray, and what is the outcome of it. Like every Bollywood movie, if you are a stalker, if the woman is a stalker, she gets killed, she gets kept in a mental asylum. Like Anandmai, if you remember, we had this movie called Pyar Tune Kya Kiya, which was, the woman was a stalker and she was stalking the guy, and she got justice. There are hundreds of movies where the male actor is the stalker, engaging in behaviors that's just inappropriate. If it was happening in real life, he would be having, behind jail or something like that. But no, they are glorified, and that's essentially the problem, where women get objectified even without realizing it. And what is your parameter for even saying this man is good? Okay,
Hmm.
I'll just over there, where I've spoken to people and they literally say he's a good guy. He doesn't believe that he'll help me around the house. He like, and I'm like, that's basic decency. So the fact that basic decency becomes a, like, it's like a qualifying factor that oh, this guy is good, when I mean that shouldn't be. It's not like, what do you see in this guy? What if I ask these questions? Yeah, he doesn't hit people, he's nice that way. He, maybe there are other issues in place. But the fact that he doesn't hit me, he doesn't, like, he's okay with me working after marriage, he's okay with me, he qualifies. So our standards unfortunately are too low, and I think as women we also need to raise the bar and raise the standard. I think that's something which I would definitely like to add here.
Oh, okay.
I want to share
I think
a scary thing about, and I was trying to look up the law because I forget which statute it was, but in North Carolina, because every state is a little bit different, but in North Carolina, there was an incident not up about 2 or 3 years ago where a 16-year-old girl that I know was assaulted and attacked by a 70-year-old man. She got away, okay, but nonetheless, he attacked her, and the courts, even though they had evidence, they had witnesses, and everything, the courts were not allowed to arrest him because she was between the ages of 12 and 21. So they could not arrest him for attacking her or any kind of sexual. And I want to find the law before I really delve into this, but it is our own laws that hurt the women as well. The DA was very upset because, well, the judge, not the DA, the judge, when he told the mother, "There's one dang thing I could do about this. Will scare him. Hopefully, he won't ever do this again." But because she was a waitress. She was a 16-year-old waitress, and he was drunk. But he did. He grabbed her by the hair and yanked her down, and got real close to her face and was attacking her. So it's our own laws sometimes, and I don't know about your laws, but you nailed every one of the excuses. I want to right now, Divya. You nailed every one of what you hear in a police report. Are you sure you want to put your daughter through this? Nobody's ever really going to like her again if she's damaged goods. Everything you said, you nailed it. Bill, you have something to say?
Well, I was just going to say, it's funny that we are different cultures, but Divya, you essentially mirrored every single issue that was going on here in the United States, and I mean it still goes on, and it's been a real struggle here in the U.S. to change that, particularly instituting the various campaigns, such as "No means no," and so like a whistle does not mean yes, okay, and a whistle and a no doesn't mean yes, a no is a no, and things like that. And I understand how tough that is, and I don't know if, well, I've heard like in Africa, when they teach the women in the village, everybody prospers because women, once they're educated, move up, and they tend to they teach their kids, and then it finds roots. And I guess when you were talking earlier about teaching the boys in the village, I mean, is that something that can be focused in on, so that we educate the girls and then focus on training the boys differently, so that as they grow up, they will understand that a whistle doesn't mean yes, and a no means no, and that it's better to have smarter women around you, because women are very smart, generally speaking. But your guys' thoughts on that? And hello, Lynn.
Well, good morning, Bill. And I would say more than generally speaking.
Okay.
If you talk Dr. Tula will tell you, number one, the women are always the smarter ones, and I believe that's probably true.
I'm in trouble.
The peanut gallery down here is listening and commenting. So anyway,
probably. Well put, but and I'm going to add a little change to the subject because of what I've been doing and working on, the invention I'm working on. There are also false accusations made. Okay.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind there are false ones, and those false accusations are what hurt the real situations that happen, because it just really takes away from the credibility of when a girl comes up and says something and you get oh, are you sure you're not over exaggerating? Are you sure you haven't, are you sure this really happened? You nailed every one of the points that I have heard in a police department when I'm working with a victim. And I get so angry. It's like, but again, we have to learn to teach ourselves too, right? We have to learn to teach ourselves. The problem begins at the root. You said it today. We have to focus on how do we teach that root or that seed to prosper and grow. Love yourself first, respect yourself first. One of the things I kept trying to teach any girl I knew, go learn some self-defense. Okay. And it doesn't mean that you're always going to be able to fight your way out of it. What it does is it teaches you to be prepared. Good self-defense coaches, just like these good life coaches, they truly teach you how to be prepared in a situation and how to react. Okay. Because how you react could mean the difference between whether you live through that situation or you die. And having the confidence to react and react properly could again be the difference between whether you live or die in that situation. One of the best things my coach taught me was how to run, scream and run. Don't be afraid. And do you know that 98% of the women, when they are attacked because they've never been prepared for this, their voice can't work. They can't scream.
Mm-hmm.
They will say, I tried to scream. And I've seen this happen. Like I was standing next to someone who got attacked and she froze. Nothing could come out of her voice. I could see her. Nothing could come out. Fortunately, my fist came out. So, but you know, again, I was prepared. She never had that training. She had never had that ability. But I think if we took our girls and boys and taught them how to react in certain situations and have the confidence to, maybe the offenders, whether they're boys or girls, would think twice before they offended someone, because they might think they might be armed and dangerous, right? I might not. We've all been trained,
Right.
So, maybe, you know, teaching kids financial literacy is good in school, but also maybe teaching them self-defense, because that's not something they ever taught me in school. My dad taught me self-defense, and then I took extra training after my dad left. But, you know, I think knowing how to react is good. And I think you're right. We need to teach that. Lynn, what are your thoughts on that in your neck of the woods?
I think you're absolutely right. I think that is one feeling we have, that that people aren't taught any kind of self-defense, but most especially women who are more vulnerable than men are to attacks from people. So I absolutely think you're right. I don't see it happening here. Frankly, I don't know that I see it anywhere. So I think you're right.
Well, I don't, you know, not always right, but I think that we just need to teach how to react.
Yes.
And also, what I learned in self-defense was how to respect. You know, I knew how to respect, but what I liked about that coach is when he was teaching the little kids, he was teaching them, this is not I'm not teaching you this so you can go out and bully people. I'm teaching you this, how you can respect people and respect yourself. And I thought that was big, and we don't teach that in school. We don't teach respect in school anymore. I don't know about the schools in India. What do you guys teach respect in school?
I think that's something which I'm working on. Actually, we're working with schools and trying to develop emotional well-being programs in schools across India, and also trying to, you know, work with government schools, or, you know, NGOs that work with the lesser privileged, because that's one of my passion projects. I believe that if you teach kids compassion, if you teach children how to respect themselves, respect others, or, you know, the general philosophy that if you can sit and play with someone next to you, there is going to be no war. Because when you're playing, even the way we play games, okay, every game we played is a competitive game. I mean, if I asked any of you to go back to your childhood, can you actually remember a game where there was no winner or a loser? Maybe that whole Ringa Roses or something like that, but anything beyond that you can't remember. So even developing curriculums around, you know, having games, activities where you don't have to always look at the other end, where you can have fun. And I know I'm a very competitive person. If someone tells me we are playing a game, initially if there was no concept of winning, I didn't want to play it. Now, over the years, even I've evolved and I'm like, yeah, let's just have fun. It's okay. So even teaching children, like, yeah, achievement makes you feel good and it's okay to achieve, but it's also okay to participate in things where you don't need to be wrong or right. The reason why social media blows things out of proportion is because you're not willing to hear any side. You already have made up your mind that what I believe is right, and if I change my view, it means I was wrong in the beginning. So that's the mindset that needs to change, and it begins with as simple as, think of the games we play: snakes and ladders, ludo, scrabble, everything. Yes, it encourages development in many ways, but ultimately you're also conditioning that someone wins and someone loses, and you actually just understand that in your life every day.
You know,
In
that
fact, Divya, on that note, I just wanted to mention some point that I think life coaches also have to turn and to be a storyteller, and they have to create a lot of stories, because the way we are watching our movies, it's not the reality what we are showing. It's more about the fantasy world, which is not happening. And also, people have different perception, as you mentioned. So, if life coach create a movie, it would be certainly different from what our directors do. So, I think that could be we can work on. Secondly, when Bill and a lot of people mentioned that we are from different cultures, I don't think that we are from different cultures. We are from the same culture with different practices. Because the time we said we are from different cultures, we are dividing ourselves. Because religion comes when you born in here. I mean, you before that there was no religion. I mean, so I think we are dividing ourselves from day one, and that's what's happening. And that's why we said, okay, this happened, this religion, this religion, this religion. When a person migrates from one country to the other, he migrates and he accepts a lot of values and culture of his country as well as also from the country he migrated to. So I think it's more about the perception, and we should start focusing on citizenship, because that's what we are doing. If we are on social media, if we are on IBM TV, we are talking to the people from different cultures of the world with different practices, but we are still on the same platform, and we understand what we are trying to say. So that means we are the part of the same society. It's just that the perception which we need to change up. But it was an amazing discussion with Divya and Anandmai, and I think they both have to leave for a while. We have extended their time today, but we would love to have a special show maybe next week when it's possible. We'll start a little early, and we'll have a focused discussion on engram and stuff like that. But before we wrap up, I would like some last conclusion lines from Anandmai and then Divya.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ankit, for the time and everything. Before I conclude, I just wanted to add that what Divya is saying, that from the grassroots level, from a very beginning, we have a subject in India which is called the social sciences or the
Yep.
civic sciences classes, where it said that you have to respect your elder. You should do it. Why we should do it? Nobody tells us. Okay, nobody tells us that you. So there are some rules or regulations made by the society, and then the children have to follow. We call it the herd. We call it the bhed chal in Hindi, but we also say it
Yep.
like a herd mentality, that one way the sheep is going, and then the rest of the sheep have to follow it. So that is something which we need really to work upon when we so I'm not saying that it's going to change in 1 day or 2 day. Maybe in a generation we can see a change, because if we teach our children compassion, sharing, love, and care, then these are the things what they are going to share with their generation and the other coming generation. If we are again going to share the same religious value which is outdated, I'm not against any religion, but I always say that if it's empowering you, then it's fine. But if it's making you a monster, then it's not a religion. It is not what God wanted you to do. So, with that, thanks a lot, Divya, for joining us today. And
Thank you.
thank you, Ankit, Kim, Lynn, and Bill
Thank
for
you.
being oh, yeah. Yes,
No,
the
I purposely
triangle.
came late because I was keen on listening to what happened, because sometimes it's good to listen and then just wait for your turn. So I was purposely waiting backstage.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining in, and thank you so much, Divya. And we would love to have you again. So we'll plan
So,
about that again later in this week, and then we would love to have you again here. And thank you so much. Yes,
absolutely.
Thank you.
these are the
Thank you
this is
so
a
signs.
much.
sign language.
This is
This
our
Sorry.
is a sign
sign
language.
language. This is our sign language to unify.
Yeah.
Can you leave us with a prayer before you leave?
Yeah, so I would first of all like to really say thank you for having me. And we've been hanging out for almost 2 hours now, and I'm really grateful to be here. And I think I would just like to leave with the prayer that we need to find it in our hearts to just love each other a little more, love ourselves a little more. And I would maybe like to propose a small activity for whoever's tuned in to just do. This is something I tell all my clients also to do, which is start a list 100 reasons why I am awesome. Okay. And you can't do a generic list where, oh, I am awesome because I'm kind, because I'm this. You write down, I am awesome because, okay, I am kind. I know this because. So you actually have a reason to validate your kindness. Like, I know I'm kind because I helped someone who was really in need of help. And it's really daunting, that number. Oh, I have to reach 100. So people fail after 7, 8, 10, 11. Okay, I can't go ahead. So then start a list for somebody else who you are close to. 100 reasons why, maybe why Coach Kumar is awesome. And I can just start that list for her and tell her, I reached 8 for you. You need to finish 100. Write it yourself. Get your loved ones to write it. And see how soon you reach that 100. And you may have people who write the same adjective for you, but the reason for assigning that adjective would be different. So I would definitely recommend, like, the first step towards self love is identifying your strengths, and take that first step in identifying those strengths. And it's a feel good exercise. Whenever you're feeling low, whenever you're feeling down, just pick up that list and read what you have written for yourself, what others have written for you, and notice what that does to your mood.
I love
That's
that.
wonderful.
I love that homework. Thank you.
Great idea.
So Kim, I think after this show we have to we have to do a Zoom call and do those 100 points today or tomorrow.
Well, I've already started it. Remember when we were doing acronyms for our names? And and we were trying to find ways to say, but my favorite teacher, that's a game that we would have to play in class. Every day she would have us write something nice about a different person, and we would have to turn it in. At the end of the school year, she made a little book for us, each of us, that we could take away with us of all the good things that people thought about us.
Oh.
And she would have us read them out in class too. And I thought, what a beautiful, I look back at that. That was just, to me, one of the most, my favorite. I call it a game. I guess it's not, but to me, it was a fun game, right? Oh, what can I say about that person? I would think ahead, right, of those things. And I think you're right. We need to do that. But Ankit, I think we do that every day. So,
by the way, number one.
I think Kumar and Divya needs to leave. I mean, we should say bye to them and then we'll wrap the show.
Yeah, and then we got hi guys.
Thank you.
I am thankful for is the ability to shop easy, cost effectively, save money. And it's so funny. I was thinking about it this morning too. It's like, how often do I go, wow, that has saved me a lot of money? And that's shopping online, right? Because you save time, you save gas, you save all of the efforts and energy, especially if you're buying the same products constantly, right?
Right.
And that's what, but the Shepherd family, when they are allowing you to shop cost effectively for good items of value, you're doing several good things, and Lynn's going to share that with you. But most important, you're paying forward to a good cause.
Mm-hmm.
He donates and has offered since October 1st to continue his campaign to donate 100% of the purchases of our contract to us rather than 50% of our contract. So I am very honored that the Shepherd family has chosen us as the mission. Our goal is to close that gap between poverty and sustainability. I'm going to tell you guys, our mission was to set out to change this by bringing financial literacy programs. Mm-hmm. But financial literacy isn't where it stops. We got to teach people how to have healthier lifestyles, to have wealthier lifestyles, right?
Right.
And so if you've got both combined, which I'm going to play this video of a young girl telling you this in her speech, of why it's so important to have those two aspects, to have sustainability. But people like Lynn Shepherd who come forward to donate to help these missions happen, that's how we're able to meet our goals and our mission, right? And it's a community. It's like Agent was saying, we got to work together, right?
Yeah.
And it's not, our mission just isn't the United States. Our mission is the whole globe. Unfortunately, your only savings right now is shopping in the United States at the dollar store online, because he can only deliver in the United States. But we're hoping to change that too. And that begins by sharing this message around the world. And that's what we do. But Lynn, share with us what we've got for this week. Any good special deals?
Well, actually, Ankit just in the chat indicated we have a new commercial which is going to show. But I want to just simply say, I think the number one thing that I think about with Ankit that I'm thankful for is the number 7. Anyway, so show and Bill, I didn't know you were a doctor. Look at this.
Yeah.
You're a FID.
What's a FID?
A PhD.
Oh no, it's not a PhD, it's a JD.
JD.
Oh, you're a JD. Okay, there you go. Okay.
Sorry
Well,
about
great. Yeah, that's okay. So Ankit, show the commercial because I'm really excited to see the commercial.
Right here. Right here. Oh, my system got stuck somewhere.
Hi, my name is Lynn Shepard. Our family owns an online dollar store, family.dollarstore.com. We have over 4,300 items on our site, quality items, and a lot less expensive than you might find wherever you're shopping, including on Amazon. We deliver for free if you spend $25 or more. And we also have a gift token program. Now, gift tokens are just like gift cards that you would get to shop at CVS, Target, Macy's, or a lot of other stores. And when you sign up to become a customer, you immediately get $5 worth of gift tokens to be able to use before you even make your very first purchase. So we encourage you to sign up to become a customer. We are here because we are supporting a not-for-profit, Money Masters PBS. Money Masters PBS owns IBM TV. Now, the mission of Money Masters PBS is to narrow the gap between poverty and financial sustainability. And do that by providing financial education that results in financial fitness. When you shop at the online dollar store, you are saving money and you are supporting the mission of Money Masters PBS. And they are 2 of the 5 aspects that you learn on IBM TV that creates financial fitness, saving and paying forward. But you do it at the same time because when you order from our online dollar store, you're both saving money and you're supporting the mission of Money Masters PBS.
Hashtag EXTM3U hashtag extint 0,2020-09-26 October 24th, 53 Lynn Shepard Zoom meeting 9271-321-4848 Zoom_0.mp4 Zoom_0.mp4.
Wow. Well,
I love the end. There's the hashtag Zoom_.
So we
That was
purposely,
fantastic.
That caught my attention.
we purposely didn't deleted it because when I listened it, I was like, wow, amazing. I think I should add this to the commercial because people will listen what's happening. Suddenly what's happening.
Well, I like that. I think that's good, except everybody tells me my mouth moves too much. So actually I like the video because my mouth doesn't move as much as, so I'm going to show that to all my friends.
Well, I'm going to tell people, don't forget to do hashtag IBM TV whenever you post anything so that you help promote everything that we're doing. We're trying to
Great idea.
Well, here's the thing. We're trying to meet a new goal. We met our last goal and we did really well. We met it on the day we said we were going to do it. I was so proud of us. But it takes teamwork, okay? And in order for us to meet our next goal, we need everyone to have IBM TV as much as you possibly can. We're going to try to help bring rewards to people, but we think the biggest reward that we're bringing to people is smart knowledge, okay?
Yep.
We're helping you think about these things, bringing you awareness about things to think about, to learn how to react properly, to learn how to spend. Monday is going to be really cool because we're going to talk about all of this tax hoopla, right? Why?
But Kim, Monday, before we talk about the tax law, we have a special show. So I just wanted to launch that show right here.
Wow.
Okay.
Can you show?
Whoa. Okay. When do I get my hands on it, and how can I post it?
So you start by going to, I guess, our Facebook, IBM TV Facebook, and we will start posting it there. That's when you can start scheduling yourself to get a notice whenever we post her. You can actually say, hey, make sure you notify me every time this show comes on. I didn't know that existed, by the way, until about a week ago.
Okay.
So that's really cool. It will also be video on demand after it airs live. Now, what's cool about when it's airing live is you can actually text these great, wonderful matter experts, and they will comment back to you just like what we do here.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you set to watch it live, and you can ask questions, you can post comments and engage, because that's what makes things exciting. But video on demand, you can still do that, because I know our host, they like to know what the public's saying, so they go check the text that people are giving.
But this is not only what we're launching next week. We have one more thing. So just
okay, and then we'll.
So one of the things I like about this is that when we talk about social intelligence, which is what Julian wants to do, and people who don't know this, he is a genius. Okay, he is what they call a certified genius, but I actually claim it to be human intelligence, which is something we always seem to want to replace. But you know what, folks, we can't replace human intelligence. We need it, because that's what builds the artificial intelligence that we use. So you always hear this, oh, we're going to build artificial intelligence and it's going to replace humans. You can pull that plug, but it takes this to fulfill the AI. It always has. AI is programmed with our thresholds, with our data and things that we do on a day-to-day basis. And I'm excited about this show as well. Both of them, I want to add too that October is the month awareness for breast cancer. Okay. So women empowerment, but breast cancer, keep that on your calendar to definitely stay focused on this. Women who need to get your mammograms done, a lot of times, a lot of programs are out there where you can do it for free. So go out there and contact, your local women's organizations or your doctor. They've got breast cancer doctors that set up free scanning during the month of October. It's also another month. I think it's a National Heart Awareness Month. So one year in the month of October, I was wearing like 3 or 4 pins. And it's also the National Awareness Month for domestic violence.
And also, Kim, on October, there are a lot of birthdays also in October. So I think we should celebrate.
There are. It's the Witches Month. Oh, and one more exciting thing. Okay, this is very exciting. So this is the year of 13 full moons. So this might be why we're having bad luck this year. So it's the year of 13 full moons, and the 2 moon phases happen in the month of October. October 1st and October 31st are the 2 full moon phases for the month of October. So this does not, I think that they say this happens every other 2.5 years. But the particular 2 kinds of moons that we're dealing with are very unique and unusual. So, and if you get a chance tonight, if it's a clear sky, go look at the moon, because next to it is Mars. Really bright red. I mean, like it's like looking at a diamond and a ruby.
Wow.
You can actually see the red. It was so beautiful last night. The problem is my phone just can't capture it with all the dark between here and there, but it was so gorgeous last night. Looking at, to see the bright red was just amazing. So
never noticed it. I saw the moon was spectacular last night. But
yeah, it was about midnight when I went out to look, and I could see Mars, because by then the moon phase kind of contains. When you see it this big, you're not going to see Mars beside it. But when you see it later at night in your sky, when it has moved and transitioned, you're going to see the bright red.
That's why. Yeah, because I saw it we live on almost at the top of a hill, and I was looking out the door, and the moon was just moving up, and it was just unbelievably spectacular. So,
so the harvest. This is the harvest moon. The second moon this month is called the hunter's moon. So by then there will be hunters, right? Deer hunting season is coming up. So, but yeah, definitely these are just some interesting things going on in our lives to awareness, right? This is what we're about, is just bringing you awareness to participate in some of these activities as well. But I guess we need to wrap up, don't we, Anke?
We need to wrap up, but before we wrap up, I'll just play the what's happening on IBM TV on
Will's got
Saturday.
something he wants to.
Great.
Wow. Bill's got something he wants to say.
I was just going to say, I'm so excited about the new shows for both Win Charles and our resident genius.
Yeah.
So
one more thing. We started a wine show last night for those of you who did not get to tune in. So it's a winery called Shoe Crazy, and so once a week we'll host a wine party.
It is really sad what's happened in California with some of the wineries, wonderful wineries that have been around for over 100 years, and look what's happened to them. Fires.
Right.
I know.
So sad.
I got an idea because we did this with California when we started our wineries here. We didn't have enough juices to get the wineries going. It takes a couple of years to get the vineyards going, right?
Sure. Right. Yeah, right.
So 1 year, California overproduced juices. Like they did. They had this God blessing. And so what they did was, rather than just throw the juices out, they turned and gave them to North Carolina to start generating their own wines, because it takes, some time, chemistry to bottle your wines and grow them. So there was a sharing in juices during this time frame. I'd have to go look through old magazines to recall what year that was. But what that allowed people to do was get their business going. Well, we could do the same thing, right? We could because we learned to grow grapes like they do in California with Chardonnays. It's not all the muscadines here. So it's Scuppernons. So we've learned to grow the Chardonnays, the Shiraz, the Merlots, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So we could take and share those juices and keep the wines going. So it's an idea. Maybe that word will spread, and we can help each other like they did with us. So
it's always paying it forward, isn't it? And
so it's time to wrap up. I think.
Go ahead, Ankit. I'm sorry.
Time to wrap up, and thank you for joining us today on Spiritual Saturday. Do join us on Funk from the Front Seat, which is live right now on IBM TV with our funkster Jack Robertson, followed by Plant a Good Seed, and then we have our chess star Sasha Star joining us at 3 p.m. and after that we have a Peace Day rerun show which we are doing today, and multiple other shows. So do join us, and tomorrow is Super Sunday. So thank you very much for joining us. And
real quick, are we doing the jazz festival today?
I'm not sure. I need to talk to the scheduler.
Okay, I think we got a jazz festival going on today too. So that's so great. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.